ये हम सके जन अच्छा ऑलरेडी ओडिशा फाइनेंस सर्विस विशाल तो वर्ष UPSC ऑल इंडिया रैंक 341 by Satyan. Previously he was excellence rank पाई ଆମର 2021 बैच रो and ଆମର सिटी जीएसटी ऑफिस से ऑलरेडी फाइनेंस सर्विस से एग्जाम करछन्ते and विशाल 3 वर्ष हम पास करछन्ते as OPSC officer exam. So Vishal का विषय में पहले के विशाल I think BAD Chandrasekhar pass out, and then both these are like our CET Bhubaneswar pass out, and Vishal electrical engineering pass out, and for a say MBA person the exam Bhubaneswar, and तापरे job करते corporate में job करेगी finally Odisha finance service से job करेगी finally एक वर्ष job और only all India rank 341 rank UPSC qualified करिबा जोटा समस्तकर ड्रीम गोटे UPSC क्वालिफाइड करिबा समस्तकर ड्रीम तो जॉब रे रही की सेटा में क्वालिफाई करिबा वेरी वेरी प्राउड मोमेंट सो वेलकम Vishal for this interaction system. So definitely माने हम तो सुनिया कुछ अपन छु जे केमती कोन जर्नी नंबर थिला ता आपरे तमरे ये जो सिविल सर्विस जर्नी केमती स्टार्ट थिला एंड ने वलबा इंजीनियरिंग रु मैनेजमेंट फॉर मैनेजमेंट रु सिविल सर्विस बेले ओडिशा फाइनेंस सर्विस देन एबे हमरो यूपीएससी तो केमती जर्नी थिला ता आपरे जदी किछि शेयर करे so more
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Online में भी मिला सर.
Okay. मैं voice टा put as well.
नहीं online clearly more than.
अच्छा understood. 64 रखते हैं. Fine. I guess I'm visible. Good. So.
जर्नी विषय विशाल जदि किसी फास्ट क्यू माने जे केमती तमरो जर्नी थिला सिविल सर्विस जर्नी को आसे केमती भाबितला कि सिविल सर्विस के जॉइन करबी आ भाई केबे तमो माइंड पर्सपेक्टिव सिविल सर्विस प्रिपरेशन
So subconsciously थिला to a certain extent because घरे अछंती सिविल सर्विस JJOS थिले and तापरे there are people in all India services as well. Always subconsciously thila to a certain extent, but then MBA पढ़िली corporate and पैसा and say while after that COVID board को I felt like मु prepare करले better हुआ so तर मु किछटा subjects नहीं थी पढ़िया पे आरंभ करे and it was very easy please लागिला मु सतर बहुत easy तो I was like ठीक अछि prepare करिया तो मु सेते बड़ की resign करे 2021 रो आरंभ करी.
Okay. So civil service जल्दी 2021 बैच में ऑलरेडी civil service prepare करे and join also as a OFS तो जॉब रे रही की UPSC prepare करबा केते डिफिकल्टीज थला तम भाई आ केमती तुमको टाइम मैनेजमेंट केमती को prepare.
So of course it is very difficult considering कि every day to and fro करे पड़िबो and working hours अच्छी around 7.5 hours technically, but it is beyond भी जाए आराम से. तो प्रथम तो there are few things to that कि my first preference was OFS सही reason रो ही because I'll be able to prepare as well and it was very aligned with my profile because people are very much inclined towards OSK because it's a public facing job but मोपे नथिला सेटा inclination. Second है कि somehow by God's grace I believe more जो माने hierarchy रे थिले more special commissioner more commissioner all of them are very supportive माने they are very supportive throughout the process and they're still supportive माने बहुत supportive से माने थिले थर्ड पार्ट थिला सर कि मु निजे तापरे टाइम लिमिट करे आरंभ फॉर एग्जांपल मो घर भुवनेश्वर रे बट मु कटक रे रया आरंभ करली सो दैट ट्रैवल एवरी डे 45 मिनिट्स ट्रांजिट सेटा इंपोर्टेंट नो 45 मिनिट्स 1.5 आवर इंपोर्टेंट तापरे जो टायर्डनेस ता आसे जो में कि पढी हो तो एटलीस्ट से किछटा चेंजेस आरंभ करली करिया सो दैट टाइम किछटा बाहर करी पारी एंड ऑपर्चुन मोमेंट गोटे मिली थिला माने एकेडमी रे ट्रेनिंग बडू आई कुड नॉट क्लियर अगेन तो आई हैव रिटन 3 मेंस से हिसाब रे तो मोरो सेटा क्लियर ही पनथिला तो एटा इन अ वे इफेक्टिवली मु भाबी रखथि जे इट वाज लास्ट अटेम्प्ट कना मु सब मोर छुट्टी एग्जॉस्ट कर देथि सब प्रकार जति कि डिच कर लास्ट डिच एफर्ट दे पारिए दे देथि तो से हिसाब रे मु अटेम्प्ट नै थिली सेटा को एति अकोमोडेट करि के
जे हमें जेंति कहू जे ई जो प्रिपरेशन जर्नी टा उटे हेक्टिक जर्नी बोली हमें कहू छे जो थिरे कि हमें प्रीलिम मेन इंटरव्यू जदि देखिबा तो प्रीलिम पई केमति कोन स्ट्रेटजी रहिबो जने पिला पढु छन जमान सिविल सर्विस पई प्रिपेयर करू छन बोथ ओपीएससी हो यूपीएससी हो सो सिविल सर्विस रो जो प्रीलिम पई केमति स्ट्रेटजी जने पढिबा कथा को वे रे प्रिपेयर करे कथा और तमे केमति प्रीलिम को वे रे हैंडल करथिला
सो मुझे तुम जर्नी टा पूरा कहबी तले सेते प्रीलिम्स में सेटा का कवर है तो so I started my attempts in 2021 which was my first attempt and mu jaithili एमिति की मु फेवर करूची यूपीएससी ऊपर एग्जाम दे तो चाकरी छाडी के आस्थिली आज लाइक कि मु ही फेवर करूची मु एति टका चाकरी छाडी के आसी मु काई फेवर न करी पड़े so I was very confident कि मु लेखि दे के आसी prelims at least will not be difficult और कैट भी देथली तो सीसैट was never a difficulty for me but then UPSC will very sure ensure कि you are humbled you know where you stand and all prelims alani clear of course the first attempt prelims is clear alani I could understand ki nahi I'll have to study man at least the way it is expecting us to study so that I understood ki nahi prelims pai the first most important thing is ki answers will be there in the question paper itself to kon darkar mone rakha exact darkar nahi exact answer ala recall darkar tamane revision becomes the most important thing tamane understanding the fact ki kete din aguru revise kar dele सेटा मन पड़ी परिबो सेटा सब इंपोर्टेंट पार्ट है जोछि इंस्टेड ऑफ रिवाइजिंग इट लेट्स से 4 टाइम्स 5 टाइम्स ना गोटे थरा भी 7 दिन आगु हेतिले मोर मन थिबो 7 days ago revision was the key thing for me. And within those 7 days, and my friends, specifically a friend, single friend who is in IB, Intelligence Bureau, तारा मोरो बसी कि हमें whatever current affair booklet था, every day one booklet will be finished. जो monthly compendiums ऐसे जो भी institutes 7 days around 7-8 subjects. Sorry जय तब revise भी कर दो. And this is what would help me throughout the journey. See, foundation, whatever subjects that you study are crucial to help you understand everything. But prelims as an exam is very information oriented. It is not going to actually check your clarity, your logic, set up a pore ASO. UPSC is wanting to, UPSC or for that matter OPSC as well is wanting to understand who is serious at least. Seriousness ta jana pad jaye prelims में. जे prelims clear करी पड़नी तब से seriously know at least as per the Public Service Commissions. Constitutional bodies want to establish the fact that I'll verify you only if you show me seriousness. The seriousness is where prelims is going to get. So prelims difficulties are going to give you a different form of nightmare. It has to be a very scientific process. So recall has to be there, recency has to be there. Is sufficient. I don't have to make it 7 days. और मन ही रहबेनी मु जानि छी एज अ मैटर फैक्ट मोर मन रहबे तो आई कुड अंडरस्टैंड कि 7 डेज आगु मते करिया अछि तो फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट परे मु जतरे ए दिन सरा बुझी की करली सेकंड अटेम्प्ट आई कुड क्लियर प्रीलिम्स so that was brilliant mo pai but again prelims clear kala hoba prelims does not give you ranks so mains asi gala mains pe I was not prepared again I was very overconfident with the fact ki mu possibly mains se likhi debi because I have already studied the fundamentals, I have already studied the subject, I had already completed my optional, but I had not done writing practice and all. But I was very confident. That is again where I was rejected, again thrown back to the whole cycle. No, you are not prepared. Again the reflection process started. That is when I understood that no, the first most important thing is the fact that you have to finish the paper. I had already left 60-70 marks throughout the paper. which means that I was already behind the race, behind many people in the race at least. 70 marks chhadi. For example, if I have to give you a context, rank 1 has 01071 as his total marks. My total marks is 971, 100 marks of gap. So exact 100 marks of gap, 341st rank. So 70 marks chhadiba, for that matter, is a blunder in this case. So then I understood the fact that no, I can't help it. At least I have to finish my paper. Still then I finish my optional paper re mate 10 mark chhadiya padla. Paper 1 ne paper 2 re. I scored 289, which is a very good score and optional. Paper but I had left 20 marks. So if I had attended them, then possibly it would have been very close to 300 or at least or even beyond 300. Because optional higher scores as the chances. So that is what I understood in the second attempt. More mains writing ठीक नहीं, so I had to speed it up and I had to practice. I had practiced some tests and all. Again, third attempt I understood the fact that more mains hori dele paper khali hobo nahi. Paper kaun bhara is important. The quality of the answers have to be crucial. It's a very crucial aspect to it because there were people who were writing very fast. Specifically, people from arts background and people from universities were writing very good answers, huge answers. They were filling up the paper, and you can't compete with them at least in terms of your paper sari extra. Because by that point in time, I was having that idea. Many institutions had put it in my head ki nahi tame jodi paper sari docho, you are again in the race. And at least you are in the race ki you can do well. But as an engineer, I know as a matter of fact ki हमको लिखा टिके practice करेगा पड़ेगा because we are very much detached. At least I know very much detached with writing. Graduation में जितनी हमको से जहाँ exam रे आसे थोड़ा सा जहाँ भी हमें लगता. Otherwise, it's very difficult. So again, I understood in my third attempt ki nahi. So third attempt re, I understood ki nahi, quality is not there and I had to do a lot of enrichment. So now there was a whole overhaul of the system. Attempts I had to overhaul the whole thing. My optional had to be enriched. My writings have to. Then I understood the fact that writing is not a monolith in itself. As in, essay or writing has to be very different from ethics or writing has to be very different from GS. GS or writing and has to be very different from optional or writing. Which means writing practice. Writing practice itself is not a monolith. It is very specialized as per the paper that you are attempting. For example, ethics as a paper, if you overload examples, it may not help. If you elaborate upon one example and help them understand the question that has been asked, they will probably reward you more marks. But in GS 1, 2, 3, you'll have to give more examples. The more the merrier. The more case studies you know in polity, it is better. You're better placed to get marks. But that is not the case with ethics. So the writing format itself changes, and case study itself is a very different ball game. So format of who change gala. So sethi mote polga ke na essay practice kariyau padla. Essay more ठीक ठाक thila because of some of my hobbies. Essay ठीक ठाक thila, but ethics को मत अलगा पढ़िया पड़ला. GS 1, 2, 3 को अलगा पढ़िया पड़ला. And optional को पूरा अलगा format रे पढ़िया पड़ला because my optional has to be addressed in a technical format as per its requirement. So say enrichment उड़ा अलगा है ला, तारो practice उड़ा अलगा किना कराला. Within the test, it's within the prelims to mains, I wrote around 8 full-length optional tests, which was very good for me because I had not written optional or full-length test by then. मो GS बहुत लिखी थी कि तो optional गोड़ दिला लिखी थी, इतने लिखी जाए ना थी. Optional टा को भी बहुत लिखी की जाए थी लेकर. जो इसमें कि मो marks around 230 to 289 को jump करता था. The primary reason I was not getting through the list was optional. Although there were too many issues, but optional was very low for. And it was the case with OPSC as well. OPSC re bhi moro anthro as an optional le bhalo marks asu nathila, but moro other optional because we had 2 optional at that point in time. My public administration was doing well. I was very happy with that. But anthro re itte bhalo marks mate asu nathila considering it's my primary option. So say issue ta janili. 4th attempt I gave when I was in academy. Setare mate padhiya ko diya halani, and the practices that I mentioned in terms ki the prelims करिया पे जो पढ़िया दरकार कहाँ से तो मोर उटे सांगो से तो मो जो discussion टा करूतिली over video call or over Google Meets for that matter सेटा मुझे किसी कॉल पे लेने because academy रे किसी दिया he would know. So academy does not allow you time. at least they are not that conducive. My office was rather conducive, to be honest. This was my 5th attempt, wherein I applied everything that I learned across these 4 attempts. What I'm trying to make you understand is that if you learn them from the beginning, you will not have to go through 4 attempts. If you do not learn them, the exam will make you learn them. If you want to clear that exam, if you don't want to clear that exam, you will exit the process. But if you learn them suo moto, then it will become an easier journey. ମୁଁ ଘୋଷୁ ନଥିଲି ପ୍ରିଲିମ୍ସ ପାଇଁ ନ୍ୟାସନାଲ ପାର୍କ କୋଉଠି ଅଛି କି ୱାଟର ବଡିଜ କୋଉଠି କଣ ଅଛି କି ରାମସା ସାଇଟ୍ସ କୋଉଠି କଣ ଅଛି. This time in the prelims, I had remembered all the 90 plus national parks, 70 plus Ramsar sites. Everything was there in my memory, and I had revised it in the last 7-10 days. जोथिपाई कि मते पूरा घोसिया दरकार नथिला. I just had to be very comfortable कि से वाट देखला माने म जानि कि जो को स्टेट को जागा. That is what was necessary, because those, let's say we are from the eastern India, northern India रा लोको को गोटे southern India रा Ramsar site रा नाम मन रखे कोई कष्ट होई. But you don't have to remember. The whole thing is you don't have to remember because you don't have to reproduce it exactly. Mainly the reproduction of the same word or same term is necessary. But prelims it is not. So every stage has its own nature of revision and every stage has its own nature of writing. Both have to be kept in mind. Revision in case of prelims has to be done 7 days ago. And the revision in case of mains has to be done in a cyclic manner, in an incremental manner across the whole time. It cannot be done because it is a framework तुमको बनेवा अछि तुम मुंडो framework रे चलिवा दरकार तुम मुंडो बहुत clarity रे सहित चलिया दरकार छी मतलब किसी random जिंस पचार दे. For example, if I ask you what is constitutional morality, the definition should pop up immediately. So this cannot be remembered. Prelims it can be remembered because they won't ask you constitutional morality definition in the options. But this cannot be remembered. This has to be understood and reproduced. सेठी घुसा नो एठी बुझाडा दरकार and over a long time बुझाडा दरकार. ताहले कोन कि सेटा सस्टेन करिवो निजो थे. It is sustenance दरकार because you never know what questions will be asked. बहुत पुराना concept बहुत आगु पढिथिबो किंतु sustain कर जाइथिबो से रहिथि. Conceptual understanding and conceptual revision is crucial in case of mains. But in case of prelims, it is very information overload wala revision is what I believe. For interview paying, I should not mention even because prelims अच्छी है आगु.
So Vishal, एई जो जर्नी रे हमर ओटे डर थाए मन रे कि जति न हला कोन जो फियर ऑफ फेलियर गोटे मन रे थाए हम पढुची गोटे अनसर्टेनिटी सिविल सर्विस ओपीएससी तो ठीक अछि यूपीएससी लेवल रे जतोला ଆମେ नेशनल लेवल रे फाइट करूचे सेतोले गोटे अनसर्टेनिटी बढ़ी जाए फियर ऑफ फेलियर बढ़ी जाए तो सेटा गोटे साइकोलॉजिकली प्रेशराइज भी प्लाई जातु whether it may be for peer pressure हो फैमिली प्रेशर हो तो जने यूपीएससी सिविल सर्वेंट हिसाब रे और ओपीएससी सिविल सर्वेंट हिसाब रे जने प्रेशर को केमिति हैंडल
मोर गोटे ही लॉजिक थिला मते जतले आरंभ रे मु छाडिथिली मो बापा मा डर जेथिले मो मामा डर नथिले मो पापा किंतु आरंभ रे डर जेथिले इन द सेंस कि लीविंग अ गुड पैकेज एंड आई वाज कमिंग टू सम अनसर्टेन लाइन तो मोर गोटे ही अप्रोच थिला सेते बेले से बुझी पालेन जे कोन पय एते छाडी के सदा बिकॉज़ यू नीड डेडिकेशन. द फर्स्ट थिंग इज कि यू नीड टू बी डेडिकेटेड बट द मोस्ट इंपोर्टेंट थिंग इज यू नीड ओनली वन सीट. रिजर्वेशन ये वो ये कांदना ये सब दिन सब गुरा को जिबार नाही 10टा प्रकार लेट्स से जणे कहबो मु आर्ट्स पिला मैथ्स पचा होचे ते डिफिकल्ट ना मते गोटे सीट दरकार आपे जहा जहा करिया दरकार मु करी से गोटे सीट ही धरिया अछि एंड गोटे सीट को ही रखिया अछि मुंडरे ताले साइकोलॉजिकली एवरीथिंग बिकम्स इजी. You start thinking of the negative things that may come to you. Let's say I'll tell you a वर्षो there are 289 candidates who have been selected in UPSC without any form of reservation. There are 300 plus general. In the general bhitar bhi there are people with PWD, some form of disability and some form of. So this statistics may actually be a deterrent for many people. जणे भाबियो 280 टा लोक पाउचती मु तो देही नथांती. To be honest, मु जदी जानि थांती मु एग्जाम बसी नथांती. But that is not the approach that you can have. The only approach is कि मते गोटे सीट दो. See, you UPSC दो जे दो दो. Because I had also left the chakiri and come here. And to be honest, OPSC re bhi, the only issue is कि there are few paraphernalia टिके कम अछि. But गोटे OS टे रहिले सी collectorate level जाय जीवो. जहाँ भी and the public interaction is very strong. Very groundwork रे बहुत सारा काम करियार capacity अछि. OFS टे assistant commissioner of GST जोटा कि IRS रो post same जिनसो को hold करी बसिबे. The dignity is very high. OPS, DSP and DSP system the first 3 group A services are actually brilliant services. They are not anyways compare mane subservient to anyone. Very good services. Specifically, more cases, the OFS is not subservient to anyone actually. OS is subservient to IAS, OPS is subservient to IPS. OFS does not have any godfather for that matter. They are the godfathers, finance or domain. That is the case. Second is the group B services. The services are very well structured. For example, exercise as a service. The exposure is brilliant. Mane itte dinso tame karo, itte prakara kamo kari paribo. You should not be worried ki mote exercise milla ki group B service milla. It is not a good service. The only thing is a pay grade challenge, and that is because of some form of administrative logjam ki ko service chahuni kiye badhu upru kiye rahu. That is a very different thing. You need one seat. You can use that one seat as a stepping stone for another seat. Let's say you get into a group B service. Tame jahi bas use kare group A service ko next year attempt di. You need one seat. That is it. Aramburu seta munde rakhya achi will be very helpful, I believe. Seat paiva achi bas.
ଯେମିତି କି engineering BTech ପରେ MBA exam ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର, I think you got a good package or campus recruitment. So already ଗୋଟେ corporate ରେ job କରୁଥିବା ଗୋଟେ high salary ରେ ଥିବା ତାକୁ ଛାଡିଲା ପରେ ଯେମିତି OPS ରେ OPSC ରେ ଯେମିତି ଆମେ କହୁଛେ group A ରେ around suppose 80,000 ପାଉଛେ on ସେଠି ତ what is the difference ଯଦି ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା salary corporate ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଆମର ମାନେ ଯଦି ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା এই administrative line of salary को salary is much more maybe less, but what extra ମାନେ କଣ ମାନେ କାହିଁକି ଲୋକମାନେ ଏତେ attractive towards civil service जोटा कि आमे गोटे corporate sector रे पाउनी और से recognition मिलुनी तो काहे कि लोक माने अधिक interested for civil service.
So, more हिसाब से there are two sets of people. गोटे हैला कि जो माने corporate रू detested है कि option जो माने कि चाहू ना दी corporate रही पे because recognition नहीं और what salaries नहीं और promotions नहीं और uncertainties बहुत अच्छे. There is a other set of people जो कि निजे motivated feel सब वाटे but they wanted some backup or some जो तरह के मुँह पड़ी भी कि as not never detested कि मैंने मुँह detest को नहीं के corporate में I was always enjoying corporate thoroughly. I have enjoyed corporate life टा बहुत बार. किंतु सर मैंने मुँह हिसाब से the primary motivation I believe would be if the salary भी won't be an issue. For example, let's say you would enter 8 pay commission लगी जीवो तो अम्मा पाइन जदी it will be very well paid. Corporates got through किचरा initial engineering वाला corporates को तो better paid actually. But I believe the motivation should be very different. It should not be salary. Salary जदी इटी motivation अच्छी then you will end up doing corrupt practices, which is again a no for this service. So primary motivation should be the ability to create some form of change using the power which has been vested upon you, because you will be powerful. It is a matter of fact that you will be powerful. There is no question. There are places wherein people who are very junior can use their power to actually influence people who are at a very senior post. You may think that IAS IAS बहुत powerful people. The places where people have stood up to them as well because of their statutory power, their vested power. बहुत जगह original jurisdiction निजरा से services दे दी. For example, what लोगों भावन्तु transport service पाइला. आपको IAS भी IAS रा गाड़ी भी registration पे जी. IAS bypass कर परिबो. The process has to be followed, and that officer will be the one who is authorizing it. So everyone becomes similar in the face of law. Law is equal. Article 14 सब बड़े applicable रहेगा. से जेहेतु सेटा अच्छी तो law को abide करके चले पे बदे सर मते लागू जी सही law enforce करियारा capacity बोली एते लोगों खुशी हो जाती. Apart from that, so public recognition भी बहुत अच्छा. मुझे तो जानती कितना लोगों politically aligned भी रहे पे आ सकती है भी, but that is a different subject.
I would like more question रहिबो जेतले हमें ओडिसा जो civil service prepare करूछन्ते बहुत पिला हमरो particularly state specific exam पाई focus करछन rather than national level जेमति UPSC में तो जो ट्रेंड ता रखुची जोटा कि हम देखिबा नॉर्थ साइड रे पिला माने तांकर ट्रेंड कि हमें UPSC में प्रिपेयर करबा किंतु ओडिसा रे हमरो से ट्रेंड ता पिला माने को भीतर आनिया पई कोन एक्चुअली लैकुलर होची ओडिसा रे और हमरो माइंडसेट रे कोन चेंजेस हवा दरकार सो दैट हम ओडे नेशनल लेवल रो UPSC एग्जाम पे प्रिपेयर करबो.
So प्रथम तो at least when I was attempting, there is a huge difference between OPSC and UPSC pattern, syllabus, and everything. Even the government has put in efforts to align both of them. So, first thing is awareness of OPSC or UPSC syllabus, except for international relations and Odisha history and geography. That's the only difference. The second is that ଅଧା ଲୋକ ସାର୍ ମତେ ଲାଗୁଛି ଡରରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି।
ହଁ।
ସେଇ ଡରଟା ଯାଇନି ଯେ ୟୁପିଏସସି ଗୋଟେ କଣ ଗୋଟେ ପରୀକ୍ଷା at the end of the day ପରୀକ୍ଷା ବାସ୍ ପରୀକ୍ଷା ଟିକେ କଷ୍ଟ ହେଇଯିବ କାହିଁକି ନା ବେଶୀ ଲୋକ ଦଉଛନ୍ତି ବାସ୍ that is it 50,000 let's say 50,000 or lakh people will be sitting here there 12 lakh people would be applying the only difference is that but UPSC ki OPSC kehi differentiate to kariyako basi nahanti had that been the case they would have suggested ki IIT ro acha ki IIMs ro acha ki AIMS ro acha aso ame line kari thiya ho ame tamu suru bachi nabu they are not doing that tale ame kai doriya ଆମର ତ କିଛି reason ହିଁ ନାହିଁ UPSC is establishing the fact that bachelor's degree ଥିଲେ OPSC be doing that bachelor's degree ଥିଲେ you are eligible to hold the highest and strongest positions in case of the government of India or government of Odisha so we should not be psychologically demotivating ourselves is the oh जदि जण OPSC clear करूची काहे कि से तो अधा टू बेसी सिलेबस सारी चलले से खाली जे बसी के आसी गेले भी तार अधा दिन तो हे जीव मते लागछ से डरटा जदि रहइबो जे मो अटेम्प्ट भी देबिनी जेमति अटेम्प्ट अच्छा गोटे लोक जदि मु तो कहबी जे गण जदि पूरा डिमोटिवेटेड भी अछि तार ओपीएससी हे गेला से खुशी अछि ओपीएससी फिर भी जे किसी यूपीएससी बसी गेसु तार 6टा अटेम्प्ट रखी करबो कोन हां से 6टा अटेम्प्ट सेव करी कोडे लबा नहीं हमको तो तब यूज करो थरे मे भी प्रीलिम्स क्लियर हे गेले त मोटिवेट हे कि नीचे पढिबा आरंभ कर दबो तापर सो fearing an exam is the first thing माने you have to dissolve this fear कि exam टा गोटे बहुत बड़ out of the box जिंसो जो कहीं किछ कर परिबी तो हेडा बड़ बड़ कहती ना हमें कोन कर परिया ना सेमति किछि बड़ नथाय लोक जे पांती जे बड़ हो जाय बट हां इट आर रिफ्लेक्स
अच्छा जो माने सिविल सर्विस प्रिपेयर करू छथि तांकू कोन मेसेज रहै
सर मोर प्राइमरी मेसेज वुड बी मु जोडा आरंभ रे कहली जे the journey requires different things at different stages expectations बहुत अलग अछि even paper wise expectations भी बहुत अलग अछि UPSC रे expectations understand करिया is very important से expectation understand कर देले निजो expectation को भी तमे तास तो calibrate कर परियो थरे दिडा का calibrate हे गेले तमे accordingly efforts दे परियो बहुत भल रे तो से expectation understanding से माने understanding of the syllabus PYQs that is a very crucial part सेटा हे गेले सर मते लागुची मो भलिया लोक को 5टा अटेम्प्ट दवा को पडिबो
आ गोटे कथा जंती कहिले जे पीआई केते हमर ई प्रिपरेशन रे पीआई के एनालिसिस केते इंपोर्टेंट एंड आंसर राइटिंग जोटा कि हमर मेन रे हम जो आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस करबा तो केते इंपोर्टेंट है एग्जाम प्रिपरेशन
so PYQ is the only proof of what UPSC wants to ask आउ किछि हमें प्रूफ ना सब हम स्पेकुलेशन कि एमती गोटे हे गेला लेट्स से सीआरपी राजी निया लागिछि एटा पचार देई पारंती मे बी is a let's say an example आमे जदि नबा OPSC but it is something that is an assumption कि OPSC पचारी पारे OPSC पचारछि एति कि दिनस जेति पचारछि that is a pure proof of what OPSC is thinking or what OPSC wants you to think of so PYQ is the only way through to understand the psychology of a person who is creating the question paper that is the first thing सेति में हवा कथा मु तो एबे भी कोई जे जानू जदि ऑप्शनल चूज करे अछि the first thing they have to do is download the syllabus and download PYQ of last 4-5 years बिना पढ़ी की ही आगो PYQ देखि देबा कथा लेकिन तुमको कंफर्टेबल लागु छी जे हां कोन इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चंस पचराई छै एंड द सिलेबस इज आल्सो गुड एंड बोथ ऑफ देम आर अलाइन्ड देन यू विल फील वेरी कॉन्फिडेंट कि नाही ऑप्शनल टा मोपे भलो तो PYQ तो माने प्रिपरेशन आरंभ रो स्टेज भी मु कहि माने प्रिपरेशन परे तो जो माने मेंस लेखंती ठीक अछि बट ऑप्शनल चूज करिबा इन द इनिशियल पार्ट्स ऑफ द डिसीजन मेकिंग प्रोसेस रे भी PYQ इज अ वेरी क्रूशियल पार्ट मोर सब माने इन टर्म्स ऑफ ensuring कि तुम जर्नी स्मूथ लुक्स
और जो मेन आंसर राइटिंग जो पिला कहते कि प्रैक्टिस निहाती करिया दरकार काई टाइम मैनेजमेंट गोटे बड़ इश्यू रहि जाय कि गोटे 3 आवर्स भीतर पूरा कंप्लीट करबा विथ स्ट्रक्चर रे लिखिबा तो केते इंपोर्टेंट माने जणे बिना प्रैक्टिस न करी कि भी इजीली करि परिबो तो जो प्रैक्टिस करिया दरकार
सर UPSC रे the number of questions are way more माने comparatively compared to OPSC रे I saw कि टिके lesser number of questions I guess 16 questions बढ़िया रहउची 15टा क्वेश्चन रहउची तो सेठी तो 20टा क्वेश्चंस
हां कोड
सो मो हिसाब रे सर द बेस्ट टेस्ट की तमरो राइटिंग एक्चुअली ऐप हेलानी कि नाही हेला एथिक्स रो पेपर जने जदी एथिक्स पेपर कंप्लीट कर दोची तमे से बैकअप कर देबो दैट इज फॉर राइटिंग बट अगेन मु जंती कहली मो सेकंड अटेम्प्ट रे मु राइटिंग कर दोथली किंतु क्वालिटी नथिला तो क्वालिटी हैज टू बी देयर व्हिच मींस कि रिवीजन हैज टू बी देयर सो दैट रिप्रोडक्शन ऑफ द आंसर इज अप्रोप्रिएट ता माने तम ब्रेन को एतिकी ट्रेन करिया छी जे म आंसर लिखला बडको मुंडो चालू भी थिबो जहा जहा दरकार सेटा बाहर होई से ट्रेनिंग रो प्रोसेस ता हला राइटिंग रो प्रोसेस इट्टा करिवा नाही जे मु 10 टा टेस्ट लिखुची खुशी होउची जे पेपर साथ दूची किंतु मार्क असले गोटे मार्क आछी से पूरा आंसर सेमिति करिया नाही कि मु खाली खुशी हेबी the quality of answers should improve every time, and the revision should be appropriate so that the quality of improves. So mo hisab re sir again jota mu kahithili every paper requirement in terms of answers are very different. Let's say paper 1 requires you to have very GS paper 1 requires you to be very diagrammatically strong in terms of maps. तमे जेते मैप्स अब हिस्ट्री रे भी लोको मैप्स लिखते लोको हिस्ट्री रे भी मैप्स करिया टेक्निकली स्पीकिंग a person who makes maps in history would be getting much more marks than a person who is not. तो माने पेपर 1 रे मैप्स बनेबा ही कथा जने जदी मुंडा रे सेट करके जीवो प्रैक्टिस करके जाइथिबो ताकू जे व्यस्त लागिबो से केना प्रैक्टिस ही करिछि 10 टा मैप्स बने GS 1 रे तारो प्रैक्टिस रे ही 10 टा मैप्स से बनउछ से सेठी बनेला बेलु तारो 14 टा 15 टा ही जाई पारे खुशी जेते बनेबो सेते भल. तो ये दिन गुड़ा प्रैक्टिस रु आसी जाए मोर मुंडे सेट ही थाए मुझे केस स्टडी पे ऑलरेडी सेट करके रखी देथिली थियरीज की ए केस स्टडीज एमतिया केस स्टडी आसला माने ए थियरी मु यूज करी ना थियोरेटिकल डायमेंशन बहुत जण ऐड करी पारंतिनी केस स्टडी रे. इट इज डिफिकल्ट जनरली हमें बहुत दिन पढू किंतु फर्स्ट पार्ट रे हमें थियरीज लिखि दो परे लिखि पारू किंतु मु केस स्टडी पे रेडी करी रखथिली एमतिया थियरी आसला पूरा डायग्राम बने के रखाई था सेटा बांधी करी you precise. So that form of revision and practice is necessary so that you are very well adapt to the answer writing process. You are very well set. Frameworks have to be very clear. So that each questions will of course be beyond frameworks. जोड़ी कि तुमको मुंडा बुद्धि लगे यूज कर बाकी सब बड़ा फ्रेमवर्क यूज कर देले बहुत इजी ही जाए. तो सेटा सर रिवीजन ना प्राइमरी एडवांटेज रिवीजन कुछ राइटिंग रा प्राइमरी एडवांटेज तो मुंडा रे फ्रेमवर्क सेट ही जीवा मुंडा रे कोन कोन लिखिया अछि सेट सेंस आसी गले सर आई बिलीव बहुत बेटर ही.
लास्ट 2 इयर्स भितर जो सिविल सर्विस रो जो ऑलरेडी ऑप्शन दी तो से तार एक्सपीरियंस विषय रे किछि शेयर कर.
So more preparation ପାଇଁ ତ ମୋ ପାଇଁ ବହୁତ helpful ହେଇଥିଲା in the sense ki for example ମୁଁ simple ଗୋଟେ କଥା କହିବି GST has a part called enforcement. Enforcement is where you do raids stuff, but enforcement as a word is generally not something in the अब तो आपण आंसर लिखिबे आपण केबे भी enforcement word टाको कोठी जनरली के यूज करंती गोटे लोक जे किंतु अच्छी गवर्नमेंट सर्विस रे they would understand कि enforcement is a primary part. PMC लोक ओमास पाई की enforcement करिवे ओएस वाला कोठी जाई की रहिले जे लैंड ऑफिसर से माने भी एनफोर्समेंट करिवे. एनफोर्समेंट माने ला गोटे लॉ रो एप्लीकेशन और विजिबल पुश फॉर दैट लॉ इन फील्ड. I mean, enforcement is a very crucial part. A person who has such lingos in their day-to-day activities will be better able to write those things in their answer. मतलब मोते enforcement as a technical term घुसिया की पड़े जीवा पड़ता है. For example, as an aspirant मोते घुसी जीवा पड़ता था enforcement बोले तो कौन लिखा है. But for me it was a very common thing. कि enforcement एंती करावे कि एटा एंती करावे तो सेटा गोटे किछटा administrative angle टा आसे. किंतु that administrative angle can be developed as well निजे भाबिले जे मु कोन कोन करिवा दरकार बहुत दिनसो हे जे टेक्निकल टर्म्स न आसी पारे कि से दिनसोटा भारी आसलो मते लागे.
अच्छा लास्ट क्वेश्चन मोर जदी जो हमरा इंटरव्यू जो फाइनली यूपीएससी इंटरव्यू रे ओडिसा रिलेटेड किछि पचले और वर्क एक्सपीरियंस जो लाइक ताको नै किछि क्वेश्चन
जीएसटी रिलेटेड सो मो पई मोर गोटे क्वेश्चन रे मोर दासा सर को बोर्ड थिला जीएसटी रिलेटेड देयर वाज जस्ट वन क्वेश्चन इट वाज अ पॉलिटी क्वेश्चन. See, he said कि you are an assistant commissioner of GST. Great. You tell me why the opposition was very adamant on making GST a finance bill and not a money bill. मते सिटी अचानक से टाइम लागला because मु GST रे आंसर देबे पई रेडी थिली. GST प्रिपेयर कर जाईछि. तो मु कहली सर कैन आई टेक अ मिनिट तापर मो मुंडरे पसिला संगे संगे क्वेश्चन होदला जे फाइनेंस बिल इफेक्टिवली कोन पचले इफेक्टिवली पचले फाइनेंस बिल और मनी बिल डिफरेंस कोन. जीएसटी खाली नारे लागिछि एंड ऑपोजिशन नो कथा लागिछि एंत बहुत कथा बहुत सा होला पर बहुत सा नो नेली 15 seconds approximately sir I believe it is with regards to the fact that Rajya Sabha has a very different no equal footing with regards to money bill and with regards to finance bill Rajya Sabha has similar footing. Exactly सीबी कितु सी धरी पकई दिले एमती गोटे जगह से मते जीएसटी पचन नथिले से मते पचरथिले प्योर पॉलिटी एंड ओडिसा विषय द क्वेश्चंस वर डिफरेंट. ट्राइबल अफेयर्स रो आरंभ करी की ट्राइबल कोन कोन करिछि ओडिसा रो आरंभ करी की द फैक्ट की लेट्स से जने फाइनेंस हां से मते पचले एज पर नीति आयोग नेशनल फिस्कल ये इंडेक्स ओडिसा इज द बेस्ट परफॉर्मिंग स्टेट. And this question was repeated to another OFS. There were 4 OFS officers जे के attempt करथिले थ्रो इंटरव्यू and दी जण पाइछंती. So it was asked to another OFS as well. कि why is Odisha doing so well in finance? And ताको बहुत technical questions पचारथिले तापरे. But माने सेटा पचारिले तो मु कहिथिली जहा जा elaborate करथिले तो से कहले के why is Odisha revenue surplus or why do you think Odisha is doing so well in terms of revenue? These are some things which we should understand कि Odisha गोटे जिनसर best coach. माने India रो best जदी जदर कि there are big states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, which are actually very strong states. Then Odisha is doing so well in one thing, specifically finance is that domain. So what exactly is happening, what is being done, people should be aware. So that is what they had asked. And mu bhabunisla moto OFS thile beli pacharchenti because OFS कोट लिखा है नहीं था. But से मतलब पचारथिले एटा because Odisha देखिला माने ताको मुंडे से आसला. Because he asked it to someone else as well. So सेटा पचारथिले इदिटा is a question पचारथिले. How would disaster management पर there was a question because I तो बोलो how would a leading officer को ताको पचराइथिला tell me about the